Good evening, morning, or whatever it is where you're at, randomizer fans. My name is Arusta. My co-commentator today is Hubb. We will be watching a very early morning race of the semifinals between itsotter and Shaki. How you doing today, Hubb?
I feel like a salty little moblin right now, but nah, I'm just kidding. I'm doing fine. Aside from some other outside complications, I'm good to go and ready to commentating today. I'm familiar with both of our runners who are in now deadlock into a final round of best of 3.
Yeah, these are the number 2 and number 3 runners in our Master Sword bracket here. Both runners were right about 3 and 3 or so in the previous rounds of it, in the Swiss rounds, and then they've deadlocked this week. So as you can see in the center, we've got a standard items open seed, and we're right about to get started.
As our runners go through the opening part of the race, which is usually an opener of Sanctuary or Uncle, seeing like both of them have in mind to do Uncle today, so we may be seeing them going like toe to toe here, should they continue going on to escape. Finding the bow in the first chest item is a very good sign. Be able to do Eastern early, and later on when you get Dark World access, that's Pod.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that the bow does not come with arrows for whatever reason. So even though they do have a weapon right now, it's right now not one that they can necessarily use unless they happen to get a lucky drop. So it'll be interesting to see if they decide to roll the dice on playing this out. Maybe if they get arrows as a drop here. Otherwise, just have to save and quit.
Yeah, it looks like Shaki is taking the hint to save and quit after getting those 3 bombs, and so is Otter. So yeah, we're looking for them to transition over to Kakariko Village so they can get the goodies, especially now they gotten 3 bombs to work with. So a little background about our racers today. It's Otter, who ended up earning a bye for the bracket matches, ended up going on to from the second round to the semifinals with a good record, with some good times especially over the Swiss week. Best record so far was actually from the semifinals, game 1, with 1 hour and 44 minutes and 38 seconds.
Absolutely, and we just saw a map check there on Otter's side. The Desert Palace is a pendant, other 2 are crystals. So looks like we will have 2 more pendants in the Dark World.
And as we get a drop in on to see what our last item from Lost Woods would be, is a flute, which is a very, very convenient item to get very early in the game. You're heading to Kakariko Village. Being able to free up the bird will not only allow you to fast travel to certain areas, but will definitely make routing a less of a chore for these 2.
Yeah, and it'll be interesting to see. Of course, we're not going to really see much divergence here, but what they decide to do after they finish up their Kakariko checks. Because as you mentioned, with that bow that does put Eastern in logic, it's a good chance they'll find arrows at some point. But there are also, of course, a lot of checks available, the standard South Shore route, maybe even to Agina if you want to check out that way. So it'll be really interesting to see what they do starting here in a couple minutes.
Moving on to our little background history of our runners, Shaki has been doing pretty well up to this point. Eliminated me in the first round, and I have to say it was a pretty good close match. It was only 6 minutes apart, but their record time was of week 2. Their best time for this tournament was during week 2 switch match with 1 hour 34 and 26 seconds. So as you can tell, these runners have some pretty good times for it to be sub 2. And it looks like with the way this seed is going, we may end up seeing a jet seed. But I may spoke too soon.
Yeah, that's the way I've always seen it go, is when you get a bunch of good items early, that usually means, ironically, the very end of the seed, you're going to be searching and hunting for one last item that just does not appear.
And usually in some of the more infamous searches for the last go mode item tends to be the ice rod. As we get a quake from the chicken hut. Surprised that Otter have not freed the bird yet. Oh, now he's going to go ahead and do it. But yeah, just never forget that you need to free the bird before you can utilize that fast travel.
Yeah, I wonder if that was a specific routing decision or just wasn't thinking about it at the time. I think more likely the latter, because as Shaki showed us, it's slightly more efficient to just, do it in one loop there.
So now that we've done our village checks, only coming out with Quake Medallion, but not much of a hindrance, I want to say, but it's definitely worth mentioning that now that they freed the bird, they should be able to fast travel, which will allow them to move quickly from places. So you may see them opt out and not even saving and quitting, but once they get a look at the maze race, they'll plan their next course of action. As we see, there's only 5 rupees there, so it's not worth taking.
Yeah, and Shaki doing the check first, itsotter doing the play where you actually try to run the race game, which seems like a lot of people, a strategy that I've seen a lot of people do, and I think Otter follows as well, is, if you've gotten a lot of good items thus far, you sort of do it. If you don't, then, if you don't have a lot of items, you bet on, hey, there's probably something there, which is completely defensible and makes a lot of sense.
And from the dam, we see that a fire rod is there. Definitely a good light source of lighting torches, and not only that, but getting access to Skull Woods. And we're seeing a divergence as itsotter is going up to the hut before Eastern Palace. He must be having the thought process of, I have the bow, there's a crystal in the Eastern, we might as well get it out the way.
Yeah, and it is worth noting you don't actually have to kill anything in Eastern until you get past that central room where there's a bunch of arrows and pots anyways.
And from those 3 chests, we ended up getting a hookshot and a validation arrow. So he already got himself armed ready for the dungeon itself, so shouldn't take that much to get through now that it has all that firepower propped up and ready. I feel like Shaki's going to follow the same footsteps. He's going to check the hut after finish checking Ice Cave and then go into Eastern Palace, especially since they have the bow. There is no point in really holding off on it unless you want to loop that into Pod later on.
Yeah, though it is worth noting at this point, we don't necessarily know if Pod's even a crystal, and there's no guarantees you're going to have mirror when you go there. So
exactly,
I do like the play to clearable crystal. Go ahead and do it.
Always be clearing dungeons. ABCD.
Yeah, and Shaki has gotten basically nothing from this entire. He got the fire rod, but then mini Moldorm and then Ice Rod Cave, nothing at all.
Despite not getting anything off of those, it's best to not leave those checks behind because you don't know if they do have progression or not. And it also gives you a peace of mind so you don't have to go back to them ever again.
Yeah, I mean, and it's one of those things. We know itsotter is going to check those at some point, so not really a big loss there.
Otter getting a clean kill in that skeleton room. There's a way that you can sort of game the room itself instead of it appearing for Stifos by hanging on the top of the wall there and reaching towards the door. You can actually kill the two invisible Stifos before they appear and clear the room entirely, saving you a bunch of time and a bit of headache as well, because they can be a little bit nimble and leap around if you're not really skilled in handling them.
Yeah, absolutely. Is Otter getting the cane there, which is very nice. And then able to, in this dark room, the invisible enemies in that first room can all be killed with hook shots. So very nice to have found that. Probably won't have any issues here.
Now, fun fact, usually you're supposed to have the lantern going into this dark room, but because they didn't really get it, they can just feel around for it. But more importantly, they have gotten the experience enough to know what in those dark rooms are. And funny enough, the Go Mode podcast talked about this, and their bi-weekly seed has a seed suited just for these situations. So if you're interested on how to handle dark rooms like that and you're looking to play randomized, you should go ahead and take a look at those.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that, I don't know if Otter does this, but I mean, I actually do, and I know a lot of people do. You are allowed to have resources open. So a lot of people, especially when they're newer to the game, will have in a spare monitor, you can have a darkroom map open while you're doing it, which, if you're not familiar with it, really helps getting through rooms. And Otter showing off that you can't actually use the medallion with no sword.
Otter feeling around for the dark, trying to find the... Okay, he found the Igor that had the key. All he needs to do is to just safely get out of there. And it sounds like he did. It looks like Shaki is doing the same thing as well. Going through those dark rooms as well with no issue. One thing to really love about having hookshot early is that not only that it allows you to do some good movement options, but it is a very useful tool for stunning and killing certain enemies, as Otter shows here.
Yeah, and it's actually pretty important in that room with just the bow, because Otter did not go into that room with full arrows, so could be down 6 more arrows right now. Well, 1 more arrow, because there are 5 more arrows he didn't pick up, so looks like wouldn't have had an issue, but it does have a lot of value. Meanwhile, Shaki showing off that if you have the fire rod, you can actually light a torch in that room, which does put this back area in logic.
As Shaki is going in, making his way into the boss room, Otter is hopped out of there, making good clean work of the Armos. Not a quick kill, but still a very effective one, as he now is doing his southern hemisphere route. Most likely going to go through Generosity Cave, as well as the Ice Cave as well. With an impressive hookshot, I might add, clipping into that to grab that chest so you don't have to really run back into there to get it. Oh, that's fortunate. Shaki was close to getting a quick kill, but ended up not being at the right position to finish off the rest of the Amos, and The last almost became red almost, and you have to shoot that 3 more times. Thankfully, though, he has enough arrows to handle it, so he was able to clear that with no issue.
Yeah, and so it'll be interesting to see where Shaki goes right now. itsotter is likely going to finish this off. Yep, and Shaki going to the mountain. That makes a lot of sense. Even though this old man item is not in logic, it's pretty much the easiest dark room in the game. Very easy to follow through and gets you that save and quit point. So effectively, it doesn't really cost time.
Using those arrows as a guideline to figure out where he is at the moment, to get a feel of where his position is at, to get over to the next room to pick up the old man, and then taking him right back out where he came from.
Yeah, and Otter doing the walk here, which is actually a little slower than fluting, though since he didn't have the flute out, some of that time is given up by saving the menu.
And that's another thing to note. Many times can be costly, especially if you're taking along to try to figure out which item that you need to select next. So usually if you're looking to be a good runner, you want to minimize as much time as you can being in that menu to cycle through your items.
Yeah,
and go ahead.
Yeah, I was going to say absolutely. That's one of those things that Kern, who's been on the podcast a couple times, just completed a blindfolded Rando run, is very big on, along with a lot of other mentors in the tournament, is pre-planning your menu. If you're using a tracker, a lot of the trackers have the same layout as the menu itself, so you can really save yourself time by knowing exactly which buttons you're going to hit before you even open it.
Oh yeah, to quote DC Sensei, I usually call the Generosity Cave the mini Moldrum Cave Generosity Cave, because after you kill those mini Moldrums, my tongue tied is today. Usually you get like 5 items off of it for free, basically. So it's pretty generous of them.
Shaki getting dead rocked into a wall here. Hopefully,
Oh,
once the dead rock wakes up, he'll be able to get out of there.
The worst feeling to feel. Like, I have times where dead rocks would like block your path, but you being stuck between one is like, that has to be very violating.
Yeah, and especially with only one heart with low hearts there.
Thankfully, though, these soup pots have some hearts, so he should be good to go. Picking up the glove and bombos.
Yeah, meanwhile, on Otter's side, this front of escape play thus far has not paid off with anything.
Here's hoping the last bit of it will grant him a progression. Oh, Shaki's
gonna have to play some defense here.
The mini Moldrum's being a pesky little dude, but Shaki just went on ahead and said, you know, you can stay over there for a bit while I open these chests, and ends up getting Titan's Mitt and Moon Pearl.
And a heart, which is very nice given his health situation there, too.
Thankfully, having all the items needed to get into Dark World progression. So we may not be seeing Aga today, but he could have something hiding on that ledge there that's progression.
Yeah, and that is very big for Shaki, because that was 2 gloves and Pearl, so basically Dark World access right there, plus the Ice Rod, plus Bombo. So that is a loaded mountain trip thus far.
Shaki just desires to do so. Once he finished Pyro Cave, he can just go right into Dark World and then just go up to Super Bunny Hop Cave to check those items as well.
Super Bunny Cave and Hookshot Cave, so I'll be very surprised if Shaki doesn't immediately go to the Dark World here, because that's 6 items right there can get without any trouble.
And you're already there. There's no point in going anywhere else for any other reason that may be. No kind of items have really shown themselves to progress the game further so far. So you don't have much access to like dungeons and stuff. So you might as well go through the process of checking Dark World from here. itsotter doing an interesting play, going through the dark rooms of the back of escape to most likely probably finish doing the last bit of it.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that there are actually torches in most of these rooms. They're just so far out of the way that it's rarely worth doing to light them.
Yeah, you're better off just filling for the walls at this point. And it looks like Shaki, itsotter, just going ahead and giving up on that part.
And Shaki touching the block the wrong way there, unfortunately.
Yeah, some oopsie daisies are happening between our two runners, but they're going to be a little bit minor oopsie daisies. They're not for ones to do some huge oopsie daisies. Otherwise, they probably wouldn't be here. We've gotten this far in this tournament.
Yeah, it looks like Otter is heading north, so we might get our first lumberjack check here. Because neither runner actually checked this on their way through.
Looks like he opted out and not doing it because he's...
Looks like Otter was trying to go to the old man cave the vanilla way, but forgot that you do need a glove to do it that way.
Completely forgot that he needed... I have had runs where I completely forgot that I needed an item. Like, I'd forgotten several times I needed a hammer. Speaking of hammers, Shaki is just pulling one up from Hookshot Cave. That is not only some access to the Thieves Town part of the dungeon, but also Palace of Darkness, as well as the rest of the Dark World, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, and we got map check there, green pendant on Swamp, red pendant on Thieves Town, and then good crystals in Misery Mire and Turtle Rock.
So yeah,
Shaki had also shown off that Turtle Rock is Bombos, according to our tracker.
So yeah, this is looking to be pretty fast of a seed if the rest of aggression just fall into the laps in the dungeons.
Yeah, because if you want to get technical, we don't need mirror. We don't necessarily need mirror. We don't need lamp if you're comfortable with the Mire Dark Room. So theoretically, we could be in Sword Go mode right now if you're willing to fake flipper into ice.
Yeah, fake flipper, and that's one of the few minor glitches that I learned to do and kind of enjoyed doing just to break the logic of it. And now it looks like it's Otter's turn to take his time to go through the east side of Death Mountain, which he'll come covering the tracks of Shaki, who just now going into escape. So it looks like they're both crisscrossing their paths for the time being. Probably giving each other high fives while they're at it.
Yeah, and so while we have a second here, as they're both showing off checks we've already seen, just to give everybody a quick update if you joined late. My name is Arusta, and my co-commentator is Hubb. We've got Omega is doing our tracking here, pushing buttons, keeping us online. And then also shout-outs to Jere Dudecia, who is doing the restream for us. You're watching here on the Go Mode podcast channel. I'm sure most of you, if you're watching at this time of night, probably already know, but Go Mode Podcast is a podcast covering randomizer. Go ahead and look it up. You can find it on your favorite podcast platform. And this is part of the Mentor Tournament, which they have performed. They've done this. This is the second time, and there's also all sorts of pickup races and all that. So feel free to enter our Discord and join us if you're not familiar with it. We'd love to have you. Yeah, and one thing that was pointed out in chat by Vortex of Doom, who's, I believe, another runner in the tournament here, that I agree with, is I'm not sure I like the idea here by Shaki to go to the front of escape here. One of the common plays when you have Flute and 2 gloves and Moon Pearl is to go to Mire very quickly, because it gets you that knowledge of its medallion. And then it also gets you basically 2 items super quick in Mire Shed. Because as I mentioned...
Exactly. And funny enough, the item ratio for that Meyer shed is very high for some unexplainable reason.
Yeah, especially with having already gone through the back of escape. I think that's one of the things where it just makes more sense to go there right away.
And as our runners continue to crisscross each other's paths to look for progression, here's another interesting tidbit about them. Otter's favorite Nintendo character that he likes using, which is his sprite now for the randomizer, is Shy Guy, because he was definitely a fan of the Super Mario RPG game, and I don't blame him. They're pretty great. Shaki's favorite Nintendo character is Samus Aran, and as someone who has grown up and played the Metroid series, I can respect that. Funny enough, Super Metroid was actually my most preferred Super Nintendo game. I probably would speedrun it if I was actually really good in my execution, which I'm totally not.
Yeah, I don't know if you've ever seen some of the speedruns of Super Mario RPG, but those are incredible. Some of the people like Pidge Zero, who just watching them do the 100 super jumps, you net like it's absolutely nothing. When normal players, it's like, man, this is such a pain.
Very, very execution heavy. That is not to say that Link to the Past doesn't have execution heavy stuff that runners can do. As we are looking through, as others looking through Hookshot Cave, we get Shaki, who is now filling in for the dark, looking to see if they can get through Dark Cross without the lantern, which I don't usually recommend, especially with Vortex mentioning that you should go to Meyer immediately just to get those checks out the way. But it looks like it's just 10 arrows, so looks like both of them are saving and quitting in the sync manner and planning out their next move. Show the boy a jar and he gives you another one filled with blue.
Yeah, and Shaki looks like going straight to the Village of Outcasts here, which is a defensible check. I mean, as I said, I'm usually a fan, and it seems like a lot of people are, of rushing Meyer at this point, since knowing if that medallion is needed or not could be very important for you. But this is definitely defensible play in terms of item density.
Shaki at one heart needs to be careful. And pulling up the Ether medallion, it looks like whatever medallion is required for Misery Meyer is no longer a guessing game because we have all three out on hand.
Yeah, so we are effectively in Sword Go mode right now, which it makes sense to finish up these checks here. And there's a lamp. Good to know. Which is very nice. You know, even if you're confident in your Meyer Darkroom, it's always nice to still have it. Honestly, still faster. But at this point, I would probably start rushing dungeons.
Exactly. I would have had the same thought too. Like, no need to do the rest of the overworld for checks. because most likely the items that you'll need will probably pop up along the way in your actual dungeons.
Yeah, so we're in sword go mode. There are 4 swords in the pool. You only need 2 of them. And just finishing off the crystals they need to check, you're getting 4 items from Thieves' Town, 4, 3. You're getting like 15 or 16 items just from the crystals left on the table. So definitely rushing crystals is the play here.
I knew it was going to be a Jetsy, but I didn't think it would be this much of a Jetsy. Kind of mind-blowing when you think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. And it is worth noting, if you're confident in your hammer strats, they can kill pretty much every remaining boss with the items they already have. So you don't even need to get sword for anything, since Skull Woods does require sword. It's something that a lot of people forget since it rarely comes up, cutting those curtains before Mothula. But being a crystal, or being a pendant, we don't even need to go there.
Ooh, Shaki ended up taking too much damage. Takes a fall.
I think that might have been intentional, because he was on 1 heart.
Might have to ask him about that, because I know we did the last check for that chest there, so it would make sense to take a death here so that you can have a full set of hearts, a sort of full set of hearts, compared to 1, and then continue on in the dungeon as per protocol. And there's our first sword.
Yeah, so at this point, I mean, I think not only do you rush dungeons with 1 sword already, I think even if you get it all the way through all these crystal dungeons and still on 1 sword, I think you even rush Ganon's Tower with 1 sword. And if it bites you that you don't have your 2nd sword in Ganon's Tower, it bites you, but I think you go ahead and roll the dice on it.
And even then, if you gotten Ganon's Tower out the way, all you need to do is just search for the Master Sword and then just run right back into Pyramid. Maybe with a few safety options in mind, because you are in for the long haul, doing swordless Ganon with Master... Well, not swordless, but silverless Ganon with Master Sword. And see where that takes you.
Yeah, I mean, there is the possibility, as raised in chat, that Ganon's Tower Big Key is on Torch and we're not 100% in go mode, but that's a 1 out of 22 chance. Obviously, you still open chests along the way because both are still on low hearts, on normal mail, all that, and you do need 1 more sword. But I don't think you do any overworld checks at this point.
Yeah, anything else is with the intention of getting more defenses so that you don't take too much damage. Maybe looking for a blue mail, but outside of that, looking for Master Sword is the objective here.
Yeah, I mean, the only overworld checks I would make at this point are maybe something like Mire Shed, where it's literally right on your way. 2 checks for like 15, 20 seconds of effort. Oh, and Shaki taking another death there. That's unfortunate.
It is worth noting that these 2 runners both have a blue potion in them. So if push comes to shove, sometimes you just need to just use that blue potion and come back for it later. Otter doing pretty much of a clean boss fight there. Blind script flew off a little bit near the end, but he was able to clean it up just fine.
Yeah, and some discussion in chat about routing here. Definitely, of course, you skip the pendant dungeons for obvious reasons. Interesting question is which of the crystal dungeons you want to do first. Obviously, the ones on the mountain you want to keep for last, so it'll save you the mountain climb. I would personally think maybe even putting off pod, because pod, if you get the right layout, you can actually skip a lot of the dungeon, and hopefully you run across your sword ahead of that, and that would save you a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, in this kind of case scenario, I definitely would say going into like I want to say go ahead fake flipper it into Ice Palace would have been my move, just so I can knock that out the park as well. It's gonna be the last set of checks there. Plus, I can probably break some logic if I do need to do overworld checks going into Zora and so on forth and Hobo.
Yeah, kind of surprised Otter is excuse me, kind of surprised Otter is doing the dig game here.
Well, and we got our boots.
Gets paid off for it, and that earns back the time. But Otter, come on, man, you could easily be clearing some dungeons right now. The boots are going to pay off, but a lot of these checks, I don't know.
Yeah, those boots are definitely going to speed up his transitioning time from dungeon to dungeon, as well as getting him access to a few areas to do some more checks, just in case he ain't gotten his Master Sword yet.
I mean, and there's 5 items here in Height Cave.
And none of them are good. Why I'm not surprised.
Yeah, looks like Otter is going to pod, and so if you're going to pod, routing in these checks does make some sense. Since, you know, you could save a bit of time by just doing the save and quit and fluting, but it does get you a bunch of checks along the way, and you are still looking for a second sword. So I think I'm understanding the play now, and I think it does make a bunch of sense.
Meanwhile, Shaki is doing the longest kind of pegging, hammering the pegs to only come across to see 5 bombs, unfortunately. So while Otter is going through his Palace of Darkness, Shaki is on his trails, following his trails, I would like to say, since we already see Otter going through these already. So more likely or not, he's going to get pointed towards to doing pod as well, from the looks of it. It's worth noting that also, along with having the boots being able to shorten your time over distance. Ugh, you can tell I'm kind of out of it. But not only boots will allow you to move a lot faster, but you can also use it to bonk certain walls to open them up. as you saw him just do just now after finishing the Mimic room. Shaki is looking to go into the pyramid ledge. He's going to check that out for us, which is kind of an interesting play, especially since you know you already have all the stuff that you need for Palace of Darkness. I wonder if he's hoping for a blue mail or some other item, which is unfortunately nothing because it's just a piece of art.
Yeah, I mean, if you do feel like you want some more safeties along the way, this would be a time to route in Pyramid Ledge because you will never be back here again until the very end of the game, by which point, you know, at that point, you're probably good.
To answer the chat, I would like to think Saki knows Saki is in the go mode sequence, but the problem is you still do need a Master Sword, and even then, it seemed like he was taking a lot of damage, especially in the Sound dungeon. So he may be looking to try to compensate for the reckless play with a little bit more safety.
Yeah, and meanwhile, it's Otter finding that Master Sword, which, you know, as we've been talking about, that's kind of the thought about rushing dungeons here, is there's a good chance you're going to run across it. Shaki immediately taking a Death Warp and going straight to the back here, or going straight to the boss here.
He is going to finish this game, and it is 41 minutes and 30 seconds and counting. We are in go mode, technically. We have all 3 medallions, so we don't have to worry about checking Misery Meyer's medallion requirement. And if they come along with any sort of additional progression from here, it's just a huge boon to them. But it's up to them if they want to check on the chest or not.
I have not seen if Otter has the big key or not, because looked like skipped the Dark Maze, but then went for that one single chest there.
I don't think he did, and
yeah, looks like since he's coming back here, Chad is reporting that he does not have the big key or the big key, so
yeah,
this isn't even a choice, unfortunately.
Yeah, but there it is.
And even though they're in go mode, I do kind of like this play by Otter to go check the other chest in Dark Maze, because it doesn't really cost you much time. You can do a Death Warp easily from this level here, and it does get you that extra. Having already gotten most of the dungeon items, you know it's going to be at least one item in the rest of it.
And unfortunately, in that big chest was just 20 rupees, so not much you can do. So looks like he's going to go ahead and take his Death Warp now, and he's going to go ahead and finish the rest of this dungeon. Usually, at this point, you would have the mirror and you wouldn't have to worry about Death Warping in order to get to the entrance part of the dungeon. But since our runners do not have mirror yet, nor is required, they can just kind of take as many not take as many deaths as they want, but take deaths that'll allow them to get back to here faster than, say, for instance, walking back. So while our two runners are finishing up their Palace of Darkness dungeon, we do have another interesting tidbit about them. Otter knows Plasma Kappa and him streaming the Link to the Past randomizer for a long time. He considered picking it up, and for some reason, it kind of just stuck with him for a while. Ends up enjoying the randomized runs a lot, and that's why he's here now doing the mentor tournament.
Otter pulling out the bombos there after knocking over a bunch of them. With only Master Sword, that makes a lot of sense because you do have to spam a couple slashes.
And as you see here, if you're not careful with that hammer, you may not end up hitting both of them at the same time, and then you end up taking more damage than you should.
Yeah, and chat. Oh, Shaki taking another bad death there. That's unfortunate. Chat pointing out, very nice comment about one of the things you might want to find along the way here is Mirror, because it would make it nice in that. Oh, it's Otter using a potion there. Very smart. Mirror allows you to route in more efficiently with the way you still have to do Hera and Turtle Rock. You can do it without it, but it does make it more efficient and save you a lot of running around on Death Mountain there.
Very. Speaking of Shaki, he started doing randomizers after stumbling onto like a YouTube video or two of it. He liked Zelda a lot back then before he started doing randomizers, and after watching a few of those randomized videos, he grew interested and started taking part in it.
Huh, Otter choosing to go to the mountain here.
Mostly looking for a heal and then
looking for the heal and the good start.
Yeah.
That makes sense. I was hoping he wasn't going to try to do these mountain dungeons first, because that definitely is one of the things that you put off till the very end.
Nah, we're not looking to do that. It looks like he is prepping Fake Flipper to go to Ice Dungeon. I like this play. You don't need flippers to swim over to there.
And I like the setup with the Fake Flipper there, using the bush to put himself in the exact right position. Very nicely done.
As we see Shaki pulling up the 20 rupees from the big chest and timing the bomb placement properly to get his death ward pretty quickly. Yeah, I would agree on that, Chad. Otter should have refilled the potions before coming here.
Yeah, though it is worth noting with Bombos, they don't need a full magic meter to break Cold Stare's shield. It would be, of course, very nice to have more magic because you can use the Fire Rod for a lot of damage, but it's not hard required the way it would be in a normal seed.
True. And here we see Otter setting up for the newest no major glitch, Icebreaker. By aligning yourself with the wall on the right side of that door, right in front of the door, you can kind of clip into it a little bit, and while you're clipping into it, you use the Cane of Samora to place a block on top of you. And then from there, it's just a quick tap of left for one frame, and then using up or down to push the block out while pushing you out as well through the wall and allowing you to get to the back part of here without no issue.
And to answer a question in chat, Otter skipped the Penguinator chest, but has been checking the other stuff that's right along the way, which I think makes a lot of sense. Save yourself a few seconds there, though, as some people have discussed, it does make more sense probably to have potentially filled up on potions here, since Otter is out of potions, and a death here would be very costly. Doesn't have a whole lot of safeties here. Especially since
geez, never mind then. We don't need much use for magic powders now. Well, magic potions now. We got half magic. And that is very useful in this situation. Granted, blue potions will still be a good idea to have because it refills your health as well. Having half magic just covers a lot of the magic issues that you may potentially have during the rest of these dungeons.
Yeah, though, since you have to flute to get to Ice Island anyways, and you already have the flute out, getting those potions wouldn't have cost very much time. So, especially with knowing how jet of a seat it is, it does make sense probably to think about it. But if you're really confident in your strats, which Otter seems to be, that was a very nice kill there. It does save you a few seconds to not do it.
Taken care of. Cold Stare very convincingly, as Shaki has finished his Palace of Darkness dungeon. He may wonder where he'll go to now. Now that I'm looking over to his side, as both runners take a save and quit to plan out their next step.
Yeah, I mean, Otter is clearly going to Mire and is pretty much an Ice Palace ahead at this point. Looks like Shaki is going to be pretty much following his route. Not really sure where Shaki's going now, though.
You know what? He may not know how to do fake flippers from the screen transition, so he may opt in. He's most likely doing water walk, as when you go into the ice dungeon, if you run across like a pit ledge in a way, it'll allow you to arm yourself for a unique trick called water walking, which works the same way as fake flippering, but that's, for some reason, as you see here, he seemed to be able to do fake flipper. I wonder if he's adding both of these in together so that when he finishes Hobo, he goes back to Ice Palace dungeon. That's what it looks like he's doing.
Maybe, but I mean, just the time it takes to set up the water walk in this situation.
Not a good thing.
Yeah, I mean, even here, when you're going to check Hobo, it would have been faster to just fake flipper.
Yeah, it is possible to fake flipper from here as well, believe it or not.
Yeah, and to answer some speculation in chat, people are asking about whether you do the Mire shed before Mire. I probably would have considered it because it is 2 checks, which are very, very fast. And even if you're fully confident in your strats, which definitely seems like Otter is, if you get anything from those checks, a third tempered sword, ideally tempered sword, because that would save you a ton of time, even something like silvers or maybe a mail, it would definitely make the rest of your three remaining dungeons plus Ganon's Tower quicker by letting you either take more damage or do more damage. So it's probably worth the chance.
And yeah, to iterate what the chat is talking about, Silverless Master Sword Ganon is a huge loss of time. You'll have to invest in a lot of patience to make sure you, even at best, getting 3 hits on him, you're still taking a lot of time to take him out compared to having tempered Silverless or tempered Silver.
I agree, but it is worth noting with the amount of dungeons, from Shaki's perspective, you have 3 items in ice, which if you icebreaker, you're going to get very likely to get at least 2 of them just from the way the dungeon routes. You have Mire, where depending on where the big key is, you very well might end up checking a bunch of chests there. You have Turtle Rock, where go mode basically is skipping 1 to 2 checks, even in the absolute best situation. You have Hera, where, you know, most of the checks are quick except for the basement. And then you've got all the checks in Ganon's tower. So at this point, even if you do feel like you want a few more safeties, or you want, you know, silvers, I don't think making these overworld checks is an efficient use of time compared with what else you have.
Always be clearing dungeons. Always be clearing dungeons.
But I will say, as pointed out in chat by Incoherent, one of the better runners in the Link to the Past randomizer community, picking up the upgrades does make some sense here, since if you're worried about it, or you're worried about, you know, running out of items, it is almost free there when you're going to Ice Palace already. And it gets you more stuff for Vitreous, where if you're just going with either bomb strats or arrow strats, you'd be using up a bunch of them.
He has to be careful. Remember, our runners did not have any mail upgrade whatsoever, so any hit here doubles, like, really badly. Especially from these eyeballs, especially from the lightning.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, with only 2 hearts, this is basically one-hit KO.
Yeah. Oh, he only has 1 arrow left off of that. Here's hoping he can handle the Mountain 9. Well, actually, no. You don't have to worry about it that much. Oh, no. I was just going to mention that if he would run to the back of the room, the eye would not be able to reach him. And just as I was about to say that, he ended up getting hit anyways. Unfortunate.
Yeah, and that's definitely a good thing for Shaki. Lets him make up some of the time here. One of the things that when you go in there with fewer than full arrows, or you're missing some arrows, you can use bombs on Vitreous and on that first phase, and that's often a very good strat to toss a few bombs, just even if you don't kill them all with bombs, just to cut down on a bunch of the eyes ahead of time.
Yeah, it looks like he went back to the shop just to get some safeties finally.
And it is worth noting he is still out of arrows, and I don't believe there are any in the way that he's going to pick up on the route.
So most likely he's going to switch to bomb strat then, from the looks of it. Shaki is now entering in Cold Stare's room, getting ready to fight him, as he opts in to do the left side of the room. Though getting the clean kill, closing out that dungeon pretty quickly.
Yeah, and there's some discussion in chat about other methods you could do it instead of just the bombs. Incoherent pointing out if you're just using bow only, it actually takes 41 arrows to kill it with just arrows. So if you don't have, obviously that's more than you'd actually have. Jay Meisher, one of the other mentors in the tournament, pointing out that you can do the NMG spin strats if you're familiar with that to really cut down on the number of hits or the number of arrows you use by really cutting down on the eyeballs first. But, would need more health than what you already have. And Shaki is still making some overworld checks here. Will be rewarded with a full heart, but
doesn't seem like not much from there, unfortunately. I would also like to mention I lost to both these runners.
Yeah, I'm wondering if as Chad is pointing out, Shaki might not realize he's in go mode, because even if you want to justify the overworld checks as looking for safeties, Lumberjack is not since you haven't already done Aga, Lumberjack is definitely not something you would ever do.
Yeah.
Even if you saw, silvers or red mail up there, it's probably not a check you would want to make just to go get those. So
Otter is
almost certainly going for upgrades.
Yep.
And to answer a question in chat, Shaki is definitely not looking for flippers because he already did Ice Palace. I wonder if I don't have his stream pulled up. I don't know if he streams his tracker. I wonder if maybe he mismarked one of the pendants or crystals and thinks there's an extra dungeon he hasn't done yet and doesn't have the items for. Like maybe he thinks he has to do Swamp and is looking for items for that. Oh boy. That's unfortunate. Being reported in chat that Shaki's tracker identifies it as he thinks he has to do Swamp, in which case all these checks suddenly make a lot more sense because you need flippers and mirror. So he has 2 items from go mode according to what he thinks he has to do.
Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. That is like that has to be I don't know what to say. I hope at some point he doesn't do the rest of the checks. He just checks his map in the overworld and dark world and realizes that there's a pendant and swamp that he doesn't need to do, because the moment when he goes into that dungeon and then realizes his music isn't the crystal dungeon, but the pendant music dungeon, he will be losing his mind at that moment.
Yeah, the unfortunate thing is that, as Chad is pointing out, it's not, unless you open your mirror, it's not necessarily something like, it's not one of those dungeons you would dip just to say, hey, maybe I find, if you already had flippers and mirror, maybe you dip in there, but until they get flippers and mirror, you can't even get in, so you're not going to dip it and realize the music.
He's going to come in there with mirrors and flippers and just realize it's a pendant dungeon. This is a rather unfortunate turn of events. As we get Otter doing, I believe, the third time of this fight, the third attempt of this fight.
No, this is his second.
Oh,
He did.
second.
He reloaded on stuff, though. It is worth noting, according to chat, he may not have enough arrows even with that. Well, he's still one short.
Yeah, he's one short now.
It is exactly 35 arrows. He apparently, I think he missed a couple, because that last phase, that big eye is 8 arrows, and he still had some stuff left, but Otter did do a nice job there, working through it. And unfortunately, he doesn't know this, but we do. He just seems like he's got a big lead.
That's something I'm going to have to ask Shaki about. I wonder if the nerves of it being game 3 has gotten to him to start doing quite a little bit of reckless plays like this, because that could also happen as well. Like, pressure is on, and sometimes you end up breaking or making a few mistakes. But this is one of the more major ones that even the deaths that he has taken so far does not amount to the mistake that he made in mischecking the pendants and crystals for each dungeon.
Yeah, I mean, they were basically coming out of Ice Palace. Shaki was basically one dungeon behind when he finished off Ice Palace, or when Otter finished off Ice Palace, but then a lot of that time was given back based on the deaths. So if Shaki had realized their mistake, he would have, at this point, actually been pretty close, likely behind. Otter doing a good job here of remembering that he needs to do the Hera first before he goes through, because he does not have mirror, so once he goes to the Dark World, he's stuck in the Dark World.
Picking up a small shield for his efforts, we're going to see him do a Hera pot. And his method of Hera pot actually is pretty nice. Trying to make sure he lines up in the proper coordinates. And using the bomb trajectory to clip into the pot, use the hook shot to clip into it all the way, and then falls in a very specific way. It's worth noting that you can soft lock in that pot if you're not careful. So yeah, skipping that for style points is definitely something I can appreciate. As he starts hammering away, the quickest and cleanest kill on Morty.
Yeah, and did a very nice job there staying above and to the sides, because the hammer's hitbox is kind of funky, but it's especially weird going when you're trying to hammer up. So for something like Moldorm, or even really any boss, you want to stay above them to the extent you can if you're using hammer strats. And Shaki, unfortunately, taking another death right next to the big key chest, which is pretty much the worst place he could have gotten that.
Yeah, I think he's... Unfortunately, I think Shaki is tilted, unfortunately. And you hate to see it happen. Dying quite a bit of times in a few of those dungeons, and it's starting to get to him.
Meanwhile, Otter using that Bombos to open up Turtle Rock. It'll be interesting to see how this key layout works out here. If it's vanilla big key chest, then, you know, there's really no answers. But depending on where the big key is, then you can get into the interesting scenarios of, you know, do you skip lava chest? Do you skip the big chest? All that, how you want to play it out.
Oh, well, geez, we don't have to worry about that anymore. We could just go waltz right in there once we get like a good key or two.
Well, it depends on how you want to play it, because obviously you do check these two chests here because you have to.
Yeah, I mean,
but you need to make sure you get enough keys on your way, or you bet on a key on Laser Bridge, depending on how the keys play out.
if it was me, I would try to avoid Laser Bridge as much as possible. So I will be doing most of the checks, but I will end up stealing the key from, I believe, what room is that with the anti-fairies and the
basically the pokey key that basically stealing the lava
Yeah.
chest, skipping
Yeah.
that.
We'll skip the lava chest. That's what I'll definitely go for, especially since we get the big key now.
Yeah, and it's a minor thing, but with these levels of items, I would probably have just gone ahead and just taken the Death Warp there, given the amount of time itsotter spent dodging those. Probably would have been about as much time anyways, would have filled you up to basically the same health. And Shaki is running through it. 1 heart. Oof. Well, half a heart, really. 1 hit.
Yeah,
mode.
this is unfortunate. Like, every time I'm looking over the Shaki screen, he's either on 1 health or he's like checking for an overworld item to be like probably flippers or mirror. As he ends up taking a hit from one of the spitters, unfortunately, and has to go through that little segment once more. Yeah, I hope he doesn't like feel super bummed out about his miscalculation into doing that check, doing the map check for the pendant and crystals, because that is like, that's something that you don't think that would happen, but when it does, it's like a walking time bomb.
Yeah, and it is worth noting that Otter currently has 0 arrows and will need at least 4 arrows for Ganon's Tower. So he's passing a bunch of pots which do have them. Hopefully Otter realizes it and picks up some arrows at some point rather than getting to that mimic room and then realizing.
You can still clear out the mimic room with... Oh, wait, never mind. They don't have mirror. They do get a bee in the bottle. I don't like to think that Otter will be able to stock up on arrows before he gets to those specific rooms. At least I hope so.
It's possible, but it also kind of depends on where you're, where the big key is, because if it's super easy, then you don't necessarily have to do so. It is worth noting, as people are mentioning in chat, that the stun prize is arrows, so maybe it's Otter remembers that and is just counting on using that, which would be a very smart thing to do, but I don't remember who exactly checked that.
And as you mentioned before, he's gonna Either you or the chat mentioned it, that he's going to take the safety exit ledge so he can, just in case he dies again, he comes back through this way. Which is a good play as well because you're on green mail. You're going to take a lot of damage if you're not careful, and you have to, just like that.
Well, yeah, and especially with still needing a key from Laser Bridge, basically with 4 hearts and green mail, every laser is basically, he can take 1 hit from a laser.
Just massive oof.
I mean, even if you're confident in your laser skip strats here, which Otter does look like he's got it down, you don't want to go there with just 1-hit KO mode.
As we see the laser taking nearly half, if not all, no, almost all the hearts. And despite him dying that way, I agree with this, because it'll at least have him have some more hearts than he used to have before.
No, that was clearly an intentional death, and I think that makes a lot of sense. Gets you 1 extra hit, basically. Oh, and Shaki's showing off some awesome strats here with the spins and then going over to the side there.
Great work right there. And he has enough arrows to just finish it up by pelleting the eyeball with a lot of them. As we get to see, Saki is now into the Trinex fight, doing the hammer strats.
And that second Ice Rod shot was just a little too quick to refreeze him.
Takes care of the first head. Unfortunately, the ice one spewed out some to do some. Wanted to make an ice skating ring. Hopefully, Saki. I mean, not hopefully, Otter will not have anything of that sort right now.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, this is the kind of spot where I might, rather than trying to deal with the hammer with the ice already down there, just start spraying ice fire rod shots.
Fire rod shots and probably going in with the Master Sword, because you're not going to catch the head with that ice between you and the head itself.
Looks like Shaki at some point did realize his mistake, because he is going up here to well, we'll see in just a sec, but looks like he is going to the mountain. So it looks like Shaki did realize about the Swamp Palace thing. So that's good. And Otter taking the unfortunate death there does give Shaki a bit of a chance to catch up. Otter is still basically all of Tower of Hera and almost all of Turtle Rock ahead, but it does give a nice chance to catch up a little bit.
Looks like Otter is opting to do the left side first, right side afterwards now, to make sure he gets rid of the ice head, which is a good call on his part, which I'll agree with. Usually you'll see a few people try to take care of the fire head quickly, but that may have, like, if you do end up missing on a bit of your execution there, the ice head will definitely start making some ice, and that could cause some issues.
Yeah, and meanwhile, Shaki checking that book check, so it does seem like Shaki has not realized it, the tracker error, and is instead just going to clear dungeons along the way, pushing for crystal dungeons.
And we get flippers from Trinex himself. And with that, I do believe it is time to play our guessing game. All right, gang, time to guess your big key. Which one will it be? Will it be in the 5th chest? Will it be in the 17th chest? I would like to think it's in the 9th chest.
I guessed 17, which, if you do the normal hope room to full left strats that seems like a lot of people favor, puts it behind Ice Armos.
And we're in the final phases of the seed from Otter. And once he goes in, that's when the guessing game will end and we see our results. No, I don't think 24. There's 24 chests in the Geddon's tower. Unless you want to count a fetch quest or two in there. You get bombs for the first one, a small key for the next one. And it looks like Otter is opting into doing right side first.
Which does make sense, because as chat points out, you don't have mirrors, so you'd have to go back up the stairs through the lobby and then down the other set of stairs if you want to do the hope room to full left strat. Meanwhile, Shaki getting his 6th crystal off Moldorm there. Cape, which is not at all necessary, but very nice to have. Though you do need another sword to be able to do your sword spins.
That was chest 6, wasn't it, right?
Yes, and we are currently at 6, and looks like Otter is
now realizing he has no mirror. But that's completely fine, though. He should be able to handle the rest of these dungeons the same way. And as chat pointed out, Cape is nice to have, a good safety strat just in case Ganon is too tough, especially during his 3rd phase, I believe. Or was it 2nd phase? Second phase. Second phase is an issue, especially with Green Tunic.
Yeah,
so
Shaki, Cape. Yeah, and to point out, Shaki did notice that he was out of mirror because he stayed on that screen for just a few seconds. Or not Shaki, Otter, excuse me.
That was chest number 7, correct?
That was number 7.
That was a small key. And now we're going into this fight. So I don't think he has enough arrow.
He does not have enough arrows, and he's also only got 3 hearts, which Armos doesn't do a ton of damage, but on ice it can get kind of slippery.
Which is probably the reason why he was taking his time doing his shots, but unfortunately, he'll have to finish this fight with his sword or hammer or boomerang. Can he still kill with boomerang?
You can. It is super slow, though.
Oh, dear.
I want to say it came up a couple times in tournament races that I've seen, and pure boomerang strats, if you have no other weapon, it's something like a 6-minute fight.
Oh, dear. Now I feel like a really salty Moblin, because I lost to these two, and this is happening to them. Oh, man. I mean, I know for sure that Otter has the armors on lock, but what if he just slips just once? Just once. Oh, okay, never mind.
Well, I mean, even so, that was a super long fight.
Oh dear me. I didn't even take a time. I want to say that's an intentional death because he didn't get the big key at all. So
Yeah, that
go
was
ahead and check the other side now.
yeah, that was an intentional death just to heal up because he was on so few hearts to start with.
And I believe this is item number 12, which is 20 rupees.
I believe item 10 was 8, 9, and 10 were behind Ice Armos.
Yeah.
So Torch was 11. So now
Okay.
we're on. This room is going to get us up to 15. And please pick up those arrows. Come on.
Pick up the arrows! Please pick up the arrows! Okay, there you go. He listened. He heard my cries. He heard my pleas.
Yeah, and people in chat making the joke about GT having a big chest. But it is worth noting in other modes, for example, something like an all dungeons key sanity or something like that, you can have important items in that big chest. So it is important to know because I mean we've definitely seen in some of other mode tournament races or league races or things like that, people winning or losing based on someone forgetting that chest exists.
Fred pointed out as well that Otter opted in not doing the fairy room instead of to fill up instead of just taking the death warp. So yeah, even if you are finished with Armos and with no mirror still, you can still go ahead and take the fairies to refill, and you go up those stairs where the big chest is at. Leaving up north will still put you into the left side of the dungeon still. So you can still do the left side dungeon from there, even if you don't have mirror.
And I think we're at 18, 19, and then...
Oh man, if it's Tile Room, I'm going to be laughing.
Tile Room is still in... I mean, at this point, Tile Room is definitely in play.
Oh man, it's just... Wait, it is Tile Room. It is, because those are the last checks for the left side until you fight the Armos. It is Tile Room.
So who was the one who guessed 22 in chat?
I don't think anyone guessed 20. Someone guessed 24 in chat. You thought it was a jet seed, but it's actually a tile room.
And Incoherent won with 24.
Thanks, I hate it. I hate this. Oh, this seed is a mess. Oh, this seed is a terrific mess. I hate this. What Otter is doing is that he's using the cloak to not only not take damage, but also to be able to slip away from the master hand. And the reason why he's still able to do this is because there is a glitch pertaining how magic drains with certain items. With the cape, if you grab onto the ledge, you will not drain any magic from it. So he was able to use the last bit of his magic to bypass all that in the tower room.
And one thing to note there is he got the big key, but actually from where he was with no magic, if he'd gone right to the very next room there is a full magic pot just right of where he was. And then there's still wall masters in that room. So the slightly more efficient play there would have been to go right, get that full magic, and just get wall mastered. It probably would have been faster than even walking back up and would get you, the refill.
Now, I wonder if he knows that he can get a magic refill in the room before Mort. Because that's usually the more common knowledge rooms, locations of where you can get more magic at the very least.
Meanwhile, Shaki is about to do his Trinex fight and unintentionally get
flippers, and I hope he does not head into... Oh no, he's gonna head to swap.
Well, he's going to also pick up his 7th crystal, and if he's been looking at his stuff, he might notice that real quick. He also might end up going south and, or just going west to check Spike Cave and unintentionally open Ganon's tower while trying to walk past it.
Let's hope he does. Let's hope for the sake of it. That when he goes to do Spike, he opens up Ganon's tower unintentionally.
But that was a very nice Trinex fight, though.
Very clean. And that is the difference between Master Sword and Tempered Sword.
Meanwhile, Otter having a very nice gauntlet here.
Breezing through here, blazing all these enemies. And it looks like... Oh my goodness, he did fix it. Okay. Okay, crisis averted. The race is still kind of alive. What if... Oh, man. Big brain plays may happen today.
Yeah, because there was the key on right side, so you can go straight to tile room. So if he makes that play, I mean, he's still behind, but would at least be a reasonable amount behind, a single Ganon fall or unfortunate death by Otter would tie it up if Shaki makes the galaxy brain play here.
All right, is he gonna just go past? Well, he is about to go through all the paces that Otter has went, and most likely not.
Yeah. Yeah, and with full health and all that, he's almost certainly going to have, and no mirror, he's going to end up playing it out to Ice Armos the same way Otter did.
Wow, not even to check the chest in there, just to see if he can actually get silvers. As Otter is demonstrating that if you run into Mort while with your sword holding out, you won't really bump into him until like the last bit of frames. And unfortunately, Mort just decided to shove him right off the ledge there.
Yeah, and it is worth noting, despite the deaths and the overall, the unfortunate tracker error, like Shaki is still entering Ganon's tower, sub 130 basically, got in there, or right
Pretty
around 130.
impressive indeed, yeah.
Which is pretty impressive, and it also means that, you know, it's hard to feel like you're way behind when you're in Ganon's tower. You haven't seen your opponent done yet, but you're also there at 130. And he hasn't really touched the any pendant dungeons either.
Yeah, I gotta wonder how these runners are feeling during this race. That may have been a triple. And Shaki cleaning up that ice armor's fight. As Otter cleans up his Aga 2 fight, it is now time for us for the final fight.
Yeah, with a double triple there by Otter. That was very, very nice.
Wild.
So real quick, as Otter drops into his Ganon fight, my name is Arusta. My co-commentator today has been Hubb. Our tracker is Omega, and then our restreamer is Jere Dudecia. Thank you everyone for watching here on the Go Mode Podcast channel. We'll try to see if we can get them in for an interview if these Ganon fights go well, just sort of see how people are thinking.
What if this race ends up in a tie?
That would be pretty amazing, but I think at this point we'd have to be seeing a lot of issues here because Otter, gets the perfect spot for phase 2 as well.
Excellent spot. That's a lot of spins right there, and then you can just... Oh! Okay, he's fine. I had to hold my breath on that one.
Yeah, I knew he had a potion, but that was about as close as you could possibly get.
Flying too close to the fire, to the sun there, as they would call it. Now, much to my surprise, they're not using the magic cape unless... Oh, there we go.
Well, but I do think that I want to say that was Otter's last potion there.
And that's the reason why he's holding back on that.
Yeah, so it looks like he was pulling it out just for that phase there where to avoid that last circle of fire bats.
Yeah, Master Sword Silverless Ganon is not much. It's not much about how hard you can handle it. It's how much consistency that you can handle it. Because that is a lot of spin slashes that you need to do in order to beat him. And then you still have to time it perfectly with him doing it the entrant. Oh no, he needs to make sure he gets this glitch. There he goes. Torch glitch will allow you to keep one torch lit throughout the rest of this fight. So now all he needs to worry about is the one on the left. And every time he does that, he should have another chance, should he be near Ganon, to do another spin attack while he does so. But he has to set up for it, so...
Yeah, I mean, if you're using Lamp like Otter was, usually you can count on 2 hits, and then sometimes, very rarely, you can get a third, but it really depends on where it is.
As we see here,
Fire Rod triples are easier to get, but again, it still sort of depends on positioning.
Yeah. Another good spin on the torch reveal. Alright, he should be close to death. Probably in the next set of triples. And then after this should be the last set. At least that's how I feel. This 1. 2? Oh, okay, maybe not. But Otter is getting consistent triples, so if this keeps up, he closes his runs out pretty well. Oh, ends up getting Blue Ganon. If I was Otter, I would go back to Lantern just for doubles, just to preserve the rest. There we go. Whew. All right, gang. Get your GGs out for Otter as he crosses the bridge and finishes with a time of 1 hour, 40 minutes, and 50 seconds.
Yeah, and Otter having a very nice Ganon fight there. We are going to see if we can get them in here for a chat.
Yeah, I gotta get their. I need to pick at their heads for this race because I noticed a lot of things that were happening.
What a battle that was.
It's intense.
Yeah, and looks like Otter is up for an interview and is just getting in the green room to get set up. So should have him in here in just a minute.
Right. Meanwhile, Shaki is going through I want to say this second half, no, not like the end of the first half of the Ganon's Tower Gauntlet. Once he finishes going up these stairs and going through, I think 4 rooms or 2 rooms, I want to say.
Yeah, I mean this is the Cannonball Z room right before the Gauntlet. So he's got basically the kill rooms and then onto Landmos. Looks like Shaki has joined us as well, so he has forfeited, and they will both be joining us in just a second here. Hello, and we are joined by itsotter and Shaki. GGs.
GGs.
GG.
So first up, what do you guys think about the seed? What did you think about the way you played it, etc.? Otter, if you want to start first, then we'll go to Shaki.
No mistakes really jumped to mind. I think everything went pretty smooth. What do you want me to say?
Shaki, do you want to comment on that part?
Oh my god.
I think I played the worst in the history of Zelda because I mismarked stuff and did weird plays, and my execution was pretty bad. So, yeah, I got tracked my Swamp Palace as a crystal. That's why I was looking for the mirror and the flippers all the time. And then when I got the flippers into the rock and GT popped up on my map, I was like, why did it pop up now? And then I rechecked and saw, oh, Swamp Palace is a green pendant, not a crystal.
Yeah, we were wondering at first because we saw you doing a bunch of overworld checks, whether you were just trying to get some extra safeties or something, and then someone dropped into your stream and said, "Oh man, looks like he's got Swamp Palace mismarked," and that's a thing that everybody does at least once, and it always feels terrible. Been there, done that.
A really bad feeling. Like I was in panic mode a little bit for you for that moment.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's still pretty close. I mean, I'm just climbing GT, and that GT big key. Oh my god, why? But I think he just finished. I would have taken like 5, 6, 7 more minutes, and even with that bad place from my side, I think that was still pretty fine.
Yeah, despite all the things that happened in this race, both of y'all still managed to be sub 2. Well, sub 150 even. So that's nothing to sneeze at.
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I'm also not really happy about the best of 3. I don't like that. It's way too much for me.
Yeah, it's tilted in my favor because I got to pick game 1 and game 3 format.
Yeah.
I don't know how else I would do it, but GG's to Shaki. Definitely beat me convincingly on Ambrosia, and I don't know. I want to say I deserved to win tonight. I think if Jocelyn tosses my opponent next, right? If he was watching tonight, he is sleeping easy. He is not worried.
Yeah,
got
Jocelyn was
man,
definitely the
finals
next
are
opponent.
in the bag right now. Otter doesn't know what he's doing.
But yeah. But yeah, with that just being the finals, and despite that, Shaki, you can still do one more race to do a bronze match. Though I'm not sure if you're up for that or not. Because I know how taxing best of 3 can definitely be. Doing at the very least 2 races for 1 week is can just mentally drain you.
As I said already, the best of 3 is pretty. I don't like the best of 3 because it's 3 races in 1 week, and I really have also other stuff to do. And I always said it a few times when I was streaming or racing, I want this to end finally. I mean, the tournament is fun in every way, but it's a lot of time commitment you have there.
Yeah.
Especially when you're not from the Eastern or from the US, the scheduling is always a pain.
Yeah, I appreciate you waking up today to play with me.
Yeah, I think I was still a little bit tired, but yeah, it worked out. It's done this week, so.
Yeah, and so if either of you have any final thoughts, otherwise I will go ahead and take us out.
Just that I was thinking about forfeiting. So if you're a racer, you still have some races to do. Don't forfeit when you feel like I did. I'm sure you know what I'm talking about.
And I never forfeit on the race until I see the opponent finished. I was like, well, I don't need to finish now. That's fine.
Yeah, if your opponent's finished, that's one thing. But if you're where I'm at, maybe that third time through Misery Mire, just stick with it. Because things happen.
I died a few times too, so.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely a lesson worth remembering for all the people in chat as well. As it's always easy to get in that thought of thinking every mistake you make is going to be fatal, and your opponent is playing flawlessly, but your opponent can easily make mistakes as well. I mean, we've seen that. If you've watched some of the league races or some of the tournament races, even on the big tournaments, even top tier runners will take weird deaths, all that. So it's never over until it's over. So with that, thank you everyone for watching. We really appreciate you, those of you who came in here, saw us in this early morning race or maybe midday race, depending on where you're at. My name is Arusta. My co-commentator today was Hubb. Also, shout outs to Omega for doing the tracking for us, and Jere Dudecia for doing the restreaming duties. This has been the Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tournament, the Master Sword bracket match. If you're looking for some more Go Mode Podcast Mentor Tourney races, there is one at 1 o'clock p.m. today Eastern Time, so about, let me do the math, about 6 to 7 hours from now. It's too early to do the math properly. And then there's one at 4 o'clock p.m., so just under 11 hours from now. Both of those are in our Fighter Sword brackets. And then there are actually ones more at 7 and 9. So 1 p.m., 4 p.m., 7 p.m., and 9 p.m. So starting about 6-7 hours from now, there's one pretty much consistently. Not all of them are being restreamed, but they should all be available on the multi-streams. So keep an eye on the schedule. Thank you, everyone, for watching, and have a good rest of your day.